All right, hey everybody. My name is Alex Frankor. I'm head of product at Xata, and today we are doing a Meet the Maker session for the latest pgroll integration with Xata. And so I will start maybe with Carlos for a quick round of introductions. Why don't you give us your name, kind of where you're from, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey there, my name is Carlos. I'm based in Spain. I work at Xata as the tech lead for the backend team. And yeah, I enjoy making pizzas, traveling. This is kind of my thing.
And virtual reality.
Oh,
And
that too.
Andrew, Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself next?
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a software engineer on the backend team at Xata. In the last few months, I've been especially working a lot on migrations tools and thinking a lot about zero downtime migrations. I live in Cambridge in the UK. I've lived here for about 10 years. It's a beautiful place to live. In my free time, I like to play sports, read books, and look after our little kids.
Perfect. Great to have you here, Andrew. And Emily, your last one.
Hey, yep. My name is Emily. I am based in Berlin. I am on the front end team. And a little bit about me, I enjoy reading as well. I like jogging and I like making clothes occasionally. But since I've got my new cat, I have kind of paused that. He's my new hobby. So.
You make clothes too, huh? Oh, Leia also does. I didn't realize that. That's cool. Okay, and so let's just dive into maybe kind of so the first introduction, I guess, to the general pgroll concept. So what we're doing with this release basically is integrating an open source project that we built late last year as to introduce zero downtime migrations. I don't know, Carlos or Andrews, both of you were pretty close into this. I don't know if you want to just give a quick recap of what pgroll is and some of the capabilities that it offers. I can pick one.
Um, yeah, I can start. So yeah, pgroll, I guess we had two kind of aims for it. The first one was we see a lot of people using the expand contract pattern to apply migrations to their database. But everyone's doing this in a slightly different way. And it's kind of unique and special for every migration that you have to run. So we thought, what would a migration tool look like if you built the expand contract pattern into the tool as a kind of primitive operation? So everything you did with it was automatically expand contract. We thought this could simplify migrations a lot, and Postgres has some nice features that support this quite well. Secondly, we thought we could improve the situation where people run migrations and unintentionally lock resources in their database during migration. It's a very common source of errors during migrations. And we thought, again, we could make this kind of intelligent behavior around taking and releasing locks for the shortest time possible and build that as a kind of primitive into the tool as well. I think those are the two main motivations we had with it.
Yeah, and I'd say we've seen some pretty good success with pgroll as an open source project alone. There's been some good adoption and a lot of feedback and even contributions from the community. And so I don't know, I'm personally excited to get this into Xata, our service. And so I don't know, Emily, you're on the front end, so you might see some of this more than most. But what kind of pain points do you see this actually addressing for users?
Yeah, so right now, it's pretty hard, actually impossible to create a column and then change it afterwards. So if you didn't create it with a not null constraint or a unique constraint, you can't change that after you've created it. So with pgroll, we now have the ability to add a not null constraint, remove it, add a unique constraint, remove it. So it gives users more flexibility when it comes to creating and modifying their columns.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most requested features that I've seen as well. And so that's one of the reasons why I can't wait to get this in. And Carlos, we took a pretty agnostic approach, I'd say, to pgroll, obviously focused on Postgres, but it wasn't built specifically for Xata. And so I guess what were some of the key decisions that you ran across maybe during the integration phase and actually building it into Xata? Did anything come up that was worth reviewing?
Yeah. I think the problem statement was exactly that. Like it came, the original idea came from our own needs from Xata. We wanted to allow for certain migrations, and then the moment you want to expose them, you realize things are not that easy, especially at certain scale. It's incredibly easy to get into trouble when doing these migrations with Postgres, where you can actually block access to your database while the migration is happening. And this is not quite straightforward to understand when you are starting the migration. So we implemented it for our own needs. Like we wanted to avoid that problem and avoiding that problem for our users. So we needed a tool like this. And at the same time, we have been in this journey of exposing Postgres. So and that was the main motivator to say, okay, let's do an open source tool that you can use against Postgres and then leverage it internally. The main decisions were, I think, on the easy side. Like all the needs that we had for Xata, we wanted zero downtime, but also easy to use, simple code that you can then extend easily, and something that gives you an API feeling, because we actually needed to put this in an API later. So yeah, if you check the migration, how the migration files look. In general, they are minded to be easy to integrate with other projects, and that's what we strive for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I have seen, at least within the community interested in pgroll, more interest in support for things like Django, Laravel, any other Ruby, any other tools that also offer migration. So we'll be looking into exposing those as well down the road. Was there anything, like, you all worked pretty closely together for this integration? Was there anything that like stood out as memorable, good or bad? Was there something like, oh man, like I was like, I don't know. I'm just wondering if there's anything funny that came up. That doesn't need to be. So it doesn't.
To me, I remember the first time we saw it running end to end. Like it has been quite a journey. We implemented pgroll, open sourced it, then started integrating it into the API, and finally the feature made it to the front end. The first time we saw a demo, I think it was from Emily, where we saw the whole circle, everything working together. To me, that was particularly exciting. It was a great moment. When you realize, it is happening and it's working for real, and that was great.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, I had a similar feeling. Now on the flip side, especially working on pgroll for I mean, better part of 6 months now, probably. I don't know, Andrew. Is there if you could go back in time, would you have changed anything related to like the approach we took with pgroll or the integration itself? Like, is there anything dramatic that you would have changed, or is it perfect?
Certainly not perfect. I think one of the things, because it started for our own internal needs, and we knew that we wanted to integrate this into Xata itself. So the pgroll in its current form is really a library, a Go module that you can consume, and then it has a very, very thin CLI layer around it. And if you're picking up pgroll as an open source tool, intending to use it independently of Xata, the CLI features aren't quite there for what you'd expect. It misses certain things like the ability to run a whole directory full of migrations in sequence, things like that, really basic things that you expect from a migration tool. We didn't build them out immediately because we knew we wouldn't need them. We wouldn't be using the pgroll CLI directly. But we probably should have done a better job of either documenting that and saying that it's primarily a library and secondary a CLI, or we should have prioritized the CLI features, because we've seen people hitting that and being surprised that these features aren't there.
Yep, and there's definitely still time to add those features in as well, I would think. But we'll focus on the innovative aspects first, it sounds like. And Emily, maybe I'll point this question over to you, but if you could talk to your users about this feature directly, what would you ask of them?
I think just in general, like whether this is useful, if they're enjoying it, what kind of pain points they're having, what we should be focusing on. Yeah, I'm interested to see how existing users can like export maybe their current database and then import it in a pgroll database and just the whole workflow. Yeah.
What about you, Andrew and Carlos? Whether it's pgroll for the integration itself, what type of feedback are you looking for?
To me, I think it's that I will be very curious about any limitations users may hit. One of the design decisions we did is that in case you hit a limitation with the existing, let's say, migration language, you can always fall back to write your own SQL to run the migration yourself if whatever you are trying to do is not supported. I'm very curious to see and listen about what's not supported and people wants. Like so far, yeah, we are increasing support for more and more things that you can do with pgroll as we make progress. But yeah, I'm curious about that feedback. And the other one is around integrating with existing ORMs. Like we have been getting this feedback already, and I'm very curious about. Yeah, I will be very curious about chatting about this with a couple of users.
Anything specific from you, Andrew?
I think looking slightly further ahead, one of the key features of pgroll, really the main reason we wrote it, was that it allows you to have sort of two versions of your database schema alive at the same time. This helps you with application rollouts, so you can have the old and new versions running alongside each other. So that's something you can do with pgroll as the open source project, but as we've integrated it into Xata in this first phase, we haven't exposed that behavior at all. So it's always just your most recent version of your schema that's you see and is available. And I'd like to start talking to people about how they think that using pgroll can help them with application rollouts by maintaining these two parallel versions of the schema, and how we should present that in the UI as well. I think that's really the next step for the integration. So I'd be keen to kind of look ahead towards that phase.
Yeah, I'd agree. And just for our audience, we are releasing this feature as a public beta right now. So any and all feedback is welcome. And there are things like being able to write to multiple schemas at the same time, in addition to maybe even some more workflow oriented aspects of our UI that can help kind of with defining these migrations. And so there's a number of things that we still want to do before we GA it. So again, any and all feedback welcome, but we're really excited to get this first phase out there. And so with that, Emily, if you're up for it still, I would love to get a quick demo of some of the integration.
Yep, totally. I'll just share my screen. All right. So I'm on production, and I have created a workspace that has direct Postgres access enabled. I've also created a database called demo, and I've also enabled direct Postgres access. So that's how that's what you'll need to do in order to take advantage of these new features. So I'm going to import a CSV file to just get some tables and columns set up and showcase some of the new features. So these CSV files are examples that we have in our repo. This is going to be a link to a table companies, just to have some more interesting data inside this. Okay, so when we integrated pgroll, we also gave the schema view a pretty big makeover. So you'll notice that the whole design has kind of changed. We have, instead of labels, we have icons for things that are not null, things that are, or things that cannot be null, and things that are possible to be null. We also have unique kind of fingerprint icons, which show if there's a unique constraint on the field. So now there's a new option to edit the column. For example, I can set this to not null after I've created it. It doesn't have a default, but it should still work. And you can see that now this column cannot be null. I can also add a unique constraint and remove it similarly. Yeah, and you'll see that that is now a unique column. So that's something you couldn't do before, which was quite a pain point for our users. I could also rename tables or rename columns and delete columns similarly to before. We also have a new design for the schema history page, which shows a list of all of the migrations that have been run on this database. It shows information such as the type. So this was made with pgroll through the UI, but you could also have run SQL directly, and that would also be picked up here and shown as an inferred type of migration. You can see the JSON that was sent to pgroll. So all of this payload is available here. And one kind of interesting thing or nice thing is that the migration name is in the URL. So if you want to look at a specific log, you can also use that and it will automatically be picked up and the drawer will be opened. We also have a migration editor now. You can find more examples here. I have a little copy paste example here just to showcase the feature. So we have the types for each migration auto-detected. So if I open a new object, for example, I get a list of all of the possible operations that pgroll supports. And you can set multiple within this payload. So I'm going to add a column just to showcase what this looks like. It's going to be an integer with a default, and I'm going to add it to this table. So hopefully this works fine. If I go back to my schema history, I should see the log for this migration, which I do, so that's good. And then if I go to the prices page, I should also have my new column available here with my default set, which I can still interact with normally. And then one kind of, I guess, bonus feature in this demo would be the direct SQL access. So I'm going to connect to my database using the Table Plus GUI. You could use other things. And here I have my tables that match the ones in the app. I have all my data here. I can also directly edit the structure of my database here. So I could create another column, define a type, we'll say bar chart. And then if I go to my schema, this should also be picked up inside the schema history log. And the type is inferred. I see the SQL statement that was run on it, and it should also be available in my table here. That's all I had for the demo.
That was a wonderful demo. That was really great. So much work went into that. And thank you so much for walking us through it. I don't know. I was excited actually about the direct links. I wasn't aware of that. That's super useful, like for troubleshooting kind of changes to your database and sharing and collaborating in Slack. And then the JSON workflow that you showed, what we're interested in, or at least what I'm interested in from our users, is to see which types of operations and migrations are used most frequently, so we can actually build more curated experiences in the UI. So you don't have to necessarily edit with JSON. But that was, I don't know, it was a super powerful demo. The table plus stuff was really nice to see too, with the inferred migrations. Yeah, I don't know. Unless anyone has anything else to say, I think we can wrap it up. But thank you everybody for participating. Definitely really appreciate the time today, especially a week out before launch. And so I appreciate any time that you can give me. Yeah, definitely for anyone who's watching, take a look at the feature. Let us know what you think, and we're always available in Discord. All right, thanks a lot. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. See you.